What's up, everybody? Welcome to RacerXOnline.com. I'm Kris Keefer. I am at ClubMx, Max Vohland's machine right here. So I am lucky enough to get to ride the handbrake. This man is an innovator. You guys don't even know. So I came over here yesterday, wandered over here, kind of felt around. It's a pretty amazing setup. So I'm gonna let my guy right here talk about his handbrake and what the reasoning is. I know a lot of you guys already kind of know what we're doing here, but give us the background of why you chose this, what's going on with your foot.
So I had hip dislocation in practice in 2024, just after the San Francisco round, the Mutter, and ended up doing damage to my sciatic nerve really bad, and pretty much just shut my whole nerve off, my whole leg. Had complications in surgery where they messed it up even more. So it was a whole process, and I ended up losing all motion and feeling in my foot, and had full foot drop, so I couldn't pick my foot up at all. And to get back into riding after, I'd say, 9 months off the bike, I felt like I had to find a way. And it was funny, I was riding my electric free ride, and we ended up putting the handbrake on just so I could start getting some laps and just riding a dirt bike itself. And I'm like, you know, if we can get this on a real bike, it might be possible. And
so this was your idea?
Well, it originally was, yeah,
okay.
Because my dad thought I would maybe, you know, I'd be able to just kind of stomp on the foot brake, but we had a foot brake for that bike too, and we tried it, and I couldn't do it. So that was like, yeah, if I'm gonna race dirt bikes professionally as my job, I need to figure out a way how to get the handbrake on. And we went through very, very many, you know, this is the third iteration now of what we've come up with, and this is definitely the best one we've had, and I feel like this is the best setup for more, you know, people who want to try it. They can definitely put this on and try it right away. So
I'm gonna talk to Mohead in a minute, your mechanic. But basically, how long did it actually take you to be like, okay, this is muscle memory now, I know what to do, I'm not stomping on the brake? I know we talked about before this camera rolled, like you had some close calls before you started with this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so hard when you race and ride dirt bikes your whole life with a foot brake, you know, you're wired mentally to reach for that. So in certain scenarios where you're front end high, you need a brake tap, I went instinctively to the foot brake,
yep.
And there was nothing there. So it took a while to rewire my brain right, and then I'd say really about two months and about 24 days of riding, it really came into play where I stopped going for the foot brake, and this became normal. And then also throughout the Supercross season, the longer it went on, the better I got, and same with outdoors this year.
So any tips for me that I need to know about so I don't ghost ride this thing off the jump?
The main thing is, if you brake tap, you have to pull in the clutch before the brake. Don't brake tap with just the brake. So that is the main thing. You might stall it on the turn track, but you'll learn the limit of it if you do. And but yeah, it's got great braking power, so you can lock up the rear. And yeah, it takes a little bit of time, because I do a little bit of feeding the clutch and braking in some certain tight corners. The more open corners, it's way easier. You don't even need the clutch.
All right, last question. Let's say your foot comes back, you can use it. Will you go back to the pedal, or are you going to stick with this?
It's hard to say. My foot is slowly coming back, but there's one stat that I have to say is I rode 3 years pro and didn't get one podium with a foot brake, and I've raced five months pro and got a podium with a handbrake. So I'd probably stick with this.
The ratio says stay.
The stats say so.
Yeah. So quick first impression. There is a ton of hand movement that I normally don't. So what you give up in foot movement, you make up for in your left hand movement. So the outside of my hand, it gets cramped up more than normal because I'm constantly doing this. So you have to make up your mind Are you a middle finger clutch guy, or are you an index finger clutch guy? So I'm normally this, but that doesn't work. So I have to go to middle finger clutch guy, index finger brake guy. So took me a lap or two, but the rear brake itself, you can use it. Now we're on a turn track here at ClubMx. There's no jumps yet. We're going to go over there and experiment that for another time. But like, you can trail brake. So the trail braking is actually better on this bike than it is on a rear brake pedal, because I have more feel with my finger versus my boot. For you guys out there, you know, if you have a hard sole, it's hard to feel your brake pedal. So I can trail brake better with this, but the biggest thing for me is wrapping my head around. I got to switch fingers and then use both. So I can trail brake a little bit without using the clutch, but the number one thing I learned is if I'm charging into a corner, my body positioning is a little bit too far forward to do that, because then I'm over the front too much. So I got to lean back a little bit more, middle finger, index finger brake. The rear brake power isn't as touchy as I thought it was going to be. It's pretty linear, so it's not really grabby, which is kind of nice for me because it's not making the bike stall. So initial impressions, a little bit different. Really busy with the fingers doing this. You know what I'm talking about? So I'm busy with the fingers right there, and I'll have to get used to it. But honestly, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. You can wrap your head around it a little bit more than I thought, and easy to keep my feet on the pegs. First lap, I went to go do that a couple times. I'm like, oh yeah, keep that foot on the foot peg. So we'll keep riding it, but we'll break it down a little bit further when we start hitting some jumps.
Do you think you could learn this and race in 2 weeks?
No.
Or in a month?
Personally, I couldn't. I mean, I'm sure I can go race, but am I going to do good? No. I'm going to be a little bit back in the pack. But Max comes from that KTM free ride background, screwing around, messing around in the sand washes in Northern California. And so he can probably adjust a little bit quicker than me. I don't come from an electric bike background. My son came from an electric bike background, so I think those minded people can probably figure it out way more than a 48-year-old man can. But nonetheless, it's effective. And if you want to race your dirt bike and make money and be a good factory rider, you improvise. And this is what we're doing right here today. Between second and third gear, and I'm in third gear coming in the corners, pulling in the clutch and then using the brake, really free feeling. Second gear coming in the corners, pulling the clutch in, using the rear brake, more engine braking. So it could just be an ECU setting, but also just something I just noticed that last little bit I was out. I was coming into third gear, trying to stay in third gear, which amazingly this bike will pull third gear, which is nice for a 250F, but I'm gonna have to get on the rear brake a lot harder in third gear coming into corners. All right, we're here with the man. That's right, I said the man. He's back. Yeah. He was off for a little bit, but now he's back. He's Max Vohland's mechanic, Daniel Castro, AKA Mohead. All right, so we're gonna break this thing down.
Let's do it.
For all the techie guys out there.
Yep.
How involved is this thing? Give us the whole backstory. How much do you have to bleed it? Give us the whole rundown.
All right, so starting off, like Max said, this is probably variation 3-4. When he started off this whole deal, obviously he kind of in the deep end with, not knowing which direction to go. He tried a thumb brake, he tried, handbrake, he tried all these different avenues. We ended up here. In hindsight, maybe it would have been more user-friendly to have the brake under the clutch, but talking to Max, he felt like it would be more crucial for him to have the brake in the index finger and the clutch in the middle finger. So our initial setup was a cable system with a recluse, bottom half. And then obviously with a we started off with a KTM 85 brake.
Okay.
It was like a brake tech or something that comes on OEM on a KTM. So actually, it ended up being their clutch system. It was their clutch system that we put on. So went through that. That got us through October, November. Came across a couple different issues with lever placement as far as the distance between the two. So then moving forward, we came across this system, but didn't put too much into it because what we had, it was working, he was fast, all of that stuff, right? Go to round one, and obviously I think he qualified like 6th or something, dude. He had speed, he was riding well. Heat race was okay, I think he got P4 or something like that. And then obviously main event we took a DNF, right? Which, man, I ain't had one of those in a long time. So
that hurt a little bit.
Yeah, I cried a little bit. Lost some sleep. So for me, it was like, hey, we can't keep doing this. So we got hit with rain that whole next week before Detroit. So kind of spun our wheels and put the bike on the sand course, did some stuff like that, but ultimately couldn't replicate what happened at the race, right? So go to round 2 and at Detroit, and there was a red flag in that main event, right? I don't know if you go back and remember that, but when Max put in from that red flag, he's like, dude, I'm barely going to finish this thing, So I'm like, all right, dude, we're not going to go down this avenue ever again, right? You finished the race. I think he took a P11 that night, which was hard for him. I could see it.
That's impressive.
Mentally wearing on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could see like they were 3 and onto the tabletop after the mechanics area and stuff, and early in the main, no problem. Lap 8, 9, can't do it, you know? And I could see, and we could see his riding would change and stuff. So ultimately, it was disheartening for us as a team, but also him as an individual, so and as a competitor. So it's like, hey, we got to make a change. But again, this is uncharted territory, so nobody really can give us some direction. Everybody has a, hey, I heard this or that, but nobody's really riding with it and doing it at the highest level, right? So came across the Clake system, like I said previously. Talked to Talon, talked to Brandon, talked to Greg, guys involved here at the team, and Max's dad, Talon, and we got one of these ordered, and it showed up Wednesday before Daytona, man, and went out there. And obviously with the Yamaha, there's not an option for a hydraulic clutch, right? So that's where Valentini Technologies came into play for us, talking to Cody Webb. The Bar X guys, obviously Jamie at Twisted is involved with those guys, so I think Derek Drake or one of them had one of those systems on the 250F, so got one of them from those guys, and then we were able to kind of hit the ground running at Daytona. So I think he snagged a P5 in Daytona, so it was a drastic difference in results. And then so from there, we've been able to kind of gear around it. But dude, we've done a lot, man. There's obviously a MotoMaster rear caliper on this bike. There's a 245 rear rotor. There's a wider rotor. There's more aggressive pads. There's drilled banjo bolts. There's a lot going on here. But again, at the end of the day, it's proven so far this season, and we've tried to put it through its paces. I told Max, hey, we had to go the distance until it faded. So 15, 16 hours of no bleeding. I didn't like doing it, but I have to know what that number is, right? I need to know how far we can push.
So it can go that far.
Yes, sir. So I don't ever anticipate pushing it that far in practice or racing, but I need to know the failure limits. I need to know when it starts to fade on you, just for my own knowledge and obviously trying to progress him in the future. So all in all, the guys at ASV stepped up, made us a different lever. Obviously the guy at Clake has a phenomenal system. He's out of Australia. It's proven. It wraps around the Brembo clutch system here, and then obviously Valentini gives us a actuator arm adapter, and then they have their own actuator arm for different feels. So again, a lot going on here, but man, it's been for me, late in my career of doing this, it's been a good learning curve for me, and it's also brought new avenues of ways to go about it. The big thing in Supercross and Motocross is feet placement, right? So with this setup, feet placement is foot movement is minimal, right? So he can plane and go, right? So once we work out some of the kinks that have arise, right, and even then I'm sure we'll come across more, I think this time next year he'll be in a way better position as far as competitively and bike setup wise.
So just for you guys thinking about this, if you're coming from an electric background, like a bike background, right, and I've ridden the Stark with a handbrake, just like what Mohead said, I don't even have to think about my feet that much because they're just kind of staying in place, and it helps you ride a little bit more calmer. So my guess is, I haven't ridden it yet, is that I'll be able to keep my flat-footed ass away from that and get in the right proper seated and foot placement area. So being a vet guy, I'm always flat-footed. I always got to remember to put my feet back, so maybe this will help me. So very interesting. How many levers did he have to go through, like as far as shape and length? Did you guys go through a lot or no?
Oh yeah, we went through a lot of stuff over the past 6 months. So the guys at ASV, like I said, have to shout them out. They've been nothing but supportive. This is probably variation 6 or 7 lever setup, you know.
I would imagine this is really important too, just how he can catch his finger there,
yes,
right?
Yes, sir. And as you see here with the offset of how far the the brake is, you have a lot of leverage on it, right? So with a normal brake, you're only 10 mil or so away, from where your leverage ratio is. Where over here we're 50 mil, if not more. So we have crazy radial style braking on it.
Right.
So with that, like I said, I'm curious to see what you think. I've ridden it around the pits a lot, right?
Right.
And so for me, first couple times, and then obviously here at club, just messing around. I haven't track tested it because I got a rule with myself that during the season I don't mess around with that because I like my job too much.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it's too easy. I'm too competitive to go out there and get smoked by some 85 or some super mini kid around here at club, and I can't.
I understand that completely.
But me pit riding on it, honestly, I don't even think about it anymore.
It's just natural.
Yes, it's natural. So I assume for you, you're going to be able to just plant your feet and more focus on getting this down than anything.
Correct.
That's what I feel like, and that's what I anticipate. And come off season, trust me, I'm going to put this thing through its paces and give it some time.
All right, last question, then we'll go ride this thing. How many mechanics in the pits have come over and checked this thing out?
Oh, everybody. To be honest with you, everybody. So Max snagged a podium at Pittsburgh this year. Super pumped on that, obviously. But we're sitting there and what's his name? KTM guy. It's off the top of my tongue. He's the freaking champion.
Jade?
No, the 250 guy. Tom Bial.
Tom Bial. Okay, we're good. I thought we were talking about mechanics.
No. So Bial's dad's standing there. Actually, Pedro, his mechanic as well. Bial's dad's standing there. He's looking at my bike, and he's on the backside of the berm or something next to the podium, and he's like looking at me, and I said, "You want to touch this thing? I don't know." Yeah. And he's like, yes. And he got in there and he's feeling it. He's like, And then obviously Pedro, the other guys have felt it. And honestly, like everybody, this weekend Cody Webb stopped by. He's a friend of mine. Obviously lives in the Colorado area.
Smart human being.
He's a smart human being. Very smart. And actually, Cody tipped me off on the Valentini system. He runs it in hard enduro and off road and stuff. It's good. But first saying, hey, let me feel your brake. He doesn't care about me as a person.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Mohead? Let me feel your brake.
Exactly.
So I'm getting a lot of that. But honestly, it's cool. It shows that people in the motorcycle industry are open-minded and see that there's some promise to this, right? And if you go back, and Max told me back in October, November, there's a documentary that is on a MotoGP guy, and that's how they developed the thumb brake, which all these guys, Rossi, Marquez, all these dudes, phenomenal guys, use it now, right? It's implemented in MotoGP, but that comes from a guy who went in a car accident and lost his foot, right? So he couldn't brake. But then he goes out and he wins MotoGP World Championship with the thumb brake, and now it's implemented at the factory level.
Accidents happen, things evolve.
Yeah, so for me, I'm like, all right, positive mindset on this whole deal, and let's keep it moving, So honestly, 6 months, 7 months has flown by, but it's cool to look at it and kind of have a little bit of perspective to see kind of how far we came.
Cool, I'm gonna go ride it.
Yeah.
Wish me luck. Okay, big track. I didn't die. That's a plus. It's a win. Check mark. Similar to the turn track for me, like third gear and second gear is a big drastic change. So normally in the real world, we just kind of use our rear brake pedal, set yourself up. I have a tendency to shift my weight more forward when I do my rear brake now. Usually when I'm rear braking into a corner, my weight's a little bit far back. So I'm more weighted towards the front, trying to brake and use my two fingers here. So I have to consciously make a decision like, hey, I got to push myself back and then use that brake, and then it kind of squats evenly like a normal bike would. So that's something to get used to. I still haven't got used to it, but training my brain. Second to third gear, I like second gear coming into corners because it has more engine braking, so I don't have to use the brake as much. Third gear is really free, so I really gotta get on that rear brake a little bit harder. That's one of the big things that I noticed, just the engine braking difference between second and third gear. Overall, just getting used to the bike and going to the rut standing up, it's just a lot easier. I can consciously put my foot on the balls of my feet, tuck my foot in. It kind of forces you just to ride that way, and in essence, that is the better way to ride. So for me, I can understand why you can get used to this pretty quick. It would take me more than it would for Max, but like the turn track itself, I like that it's not touchy. I can grab this thing and it's not really touchy. It doesn't lock up the rear brake as quick. I thought it would be locked up. For me, we talked about trail braking out there on the corner track. I enjoy trail braking more with this lever than I do a rear brake pedal. And it's even more so on a big track. So when you have tall bumps coming in the corners, I can trail brake this thing a little bit better than I can my brake pedal because I can feel it more, right? So like we talked about on the corner track, you have more feeling in your index finger than I do my foot, because you have a hard sole. Sometimes you guys go to stiffer boots and it's sometimes hard to feel the pedal. So for me, trail braking is much easier with this lever. Max is here, so I have a lot of questions. Do you notice, did you have to shift your weight anything different from brake pedal to this?
No.
Okay.
I've gotten so used to it now, maybe I didn't notice it at the beginning, but I honestly feel like it helped me when I was going down the hill, especially at Thunder Valley this weekend. I could get farther back. And especially through the ruts, so I could really balance on the bike through the ruts and have full control over how much stopping power I needed. Of course, I've been riding a lot longer than you have on the system, so I'm pretty good at feeding the clutch and brake at the same time and doing separate, so I'm pretty good at doing opposite. And even like in the tighter corners, that back off camber, I'm braking, then using the clutch in the rut to fade, and then I'm letting go of the brake to let the roll, and then I'm using the clutch to feed out. So
Are you a middle finger clutch guy?
I've always been a middle finger, so that makes it a little bit easier too. So I've always had feeling with my middle finger on the clutch. So that's also...
That's something new to me, so I'm an index guy. So you have to make a decision, like you have to be a middle finger clutch and an index brake.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit something to get used to. Because I have a tendency to do this. I'm like, oh yeah,
Really?
that's not going to work in the corner.
No,
So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just a different feel. It's pretty unique. Honestly, like we talked about at the top of the video here, someone else's accident or someone else's misfortune kind of evolves the sport, because we love the sport so much. You want to keep riding, you want to be at a high level, so you adapt and you try to do things. And honestly, this could be something new for a lot of different people. We heard that Bob from ASV might make this whole kit, and honestly, I see a lot of kids growing up riding e-bikes, you know, Surons, all these things, and getting on a dirt bike, and this would be pretty simple for them. Obviously, it's two different sides, but I don't see why they couldn't get used to that.
Yeah, I think honestly this system alone, especially if you grew up like I did with middle finger on the clutch, which I didn't even think about for you, but I do think kids riding e-bikes and handbrakes and mountain bikes and all that stuff now, this is definitely something that's gonna be more home than a foot brake. You know, I've already heard some mountain bike guys DM me about wanting to try the handbrake because it's what they ride on their mountain bike. So, you know, it's definitely something new and different. Great advantage.
Yeah, it's like you said, for me, he's farther back on the bike when he's braking, and it kind of forces me that way. I'm more of I'm on the front too much in braking bumps, which kind of forces me that way. So it kind of helps my body positioning get back on the bike. So it's honestly teaching me good habits versus the bad habits. So a lot of unique things with this setup.